Thank you, Patricia, for the introduction. And like Patricia said, I will be one of the speakers tonight, and I will be sharing, hopefully, information with you that you'll find useful. And I hope you, at the end of this call, you actually get to thank the person that invited you to be here today, because we will unfold information that probably we're going to be listening for the first time. But at the same time, if you click on your computer, you will find everything. So nothing is hidden. Everything is very well exposed. We're just trying to bring everything together so it makes more sense to us why everything is the way it is. And I'm just going to share some images with you so it makes everything so much easier. But I actually would like to start asking questions, not necessarily that you have to answer, but are you happy the way life is at the moment? Are you happy with your own health? If you're not, why aren't you? Why do we witness so many illnesses? Why do we see so many people going to the hospital? Why do we have so much cancer? Why do we have so many heart problems? Why there's so many gut problems? But at the same time, we live in an incredible development world. We have electric cars. We can go to the moon. Soon we're going to be going and traveling to Mars. So much stuff going on. But at the same time, we have a sick society. I personally think we are a sick society. There's so much illnesses going on, and we gotta ask why. And hopefully today we will share with you some of the biggest reasons why. Like I said, there's a lot of information that is pretty much everywhere. You can buy magazines, you can go online, and we've never had so much access to information like we have today. But I feel like we actually know less than we used to know much long time ago. But anyway, information is available to everyone. And according to the World Health Organization, inflammation at the moment is the greatest threat to human health. Also, on another quote shared by the World Health Organization, 6.3 billion people around the world are deficient in omega 3. Now, you might be asking, why is he talking about omega-3? Well, because omega-3 plays an important role on this illustration, which is chronic inflammation. And this actually blew my mind when I actually decided to join this company, because I actually thought that chronic inflammation was the knee pain, the joint pain, the muscle pain after playing sports, and then everything gets inflamed and it hurts. Perfect. But when I've discovered the world, what actually inflammation is, I was blown away. And he allowed me to really look into my own health through different eyes. So, like these magazines and articles are saying, inflammation and chronic inflammation is kind of considered the silent killer. It develops within you. And unfortunately, the chronic inflammation, it's the bed that we make that then it will lead to the majority of the chronic diseases. And here you have some examples of chronic diseases. And I'm sure that you know, either you personally or in your family or your friends or friends of friends that will suffer or are already suffering from one of these illnesses. There's loads of studies already at the distance of a click that talks about omega-3 and talks about the relationship between omega-6 and omega-3 and the role that both play on that same chronic inflammation. And this for me was such an eye-opener. This was a specific time of my life that I needed some help. Around 5 years ago, I suffered an accident playing squash. I've always been an athlete. I've always played different sports, and I've dislocated my right knee. And when I dislocated my knee, I kind of broke the bone that sits at the top. I've ripped all my ligaments, and I had a long surgery. And at the end of the surgery, the doctor told me that I would never be able to practice any sports whatsoever because the damage that I've created was so immense. They had to reconstruct everything, remove the broken bones, the arthritis I already had on my bones. So there was a lot of stuff going on, even prior to my accident. And the reality is, when I discover all this information, everything starts making sense to me. Do I have a chance to really reorganize myself, regenerate myself in order to be in a good place? Do I have inflammation? So let's go and dive a little bit deep. Why do we develop inflammation? I hope that we all agree in this call that the food that we used to have access 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago was much different to what it is today. It was provided by Mother Nature, full of vitamins, full of minerals, full of fatty acids, fibers, you name it. But unfortunately, what you witness today is that the food is much more ultra processed, microwave foods, and the contents of nutrients within that same food, it's no longer the same. So sometimes we need to detach ourselves from our busy lives and ask big, bold, fat questions, such as what happens to our body if we don't have access to the same amount of nutrients? If we actually eat to feed our body, what happens if we don't really have what it requires? We gotta ask these questions. And this is when we start talking about omega-6-3. Why? Well, because they actually control how much inflammation we have in our body. We need both of these fatty acids. We don't produce them. We gotta get them from the food that we consume. Omega-6. Omega-6 is your natural inflammation marker. Where do we get it? Well, we get it from red meat, we get it from eggs, and it's okay. I'm not saying that we shouldn't eat them, not at all. I eat them both. But we also get a lot of omega-6 through refined vegetable oils. That is something that we actually should avoid. And then we also get more omega-6 through processed food, ultra processed food, microwave food. So the question is, do I need to have that type of food? Because it's just going to increase my state of inflammation. Now, on the other side, you need omega-3. And omega-3, you get it mainly. We need to have a marine source, and mainly it's fatty fish, wild fatty fish. So if we have a chance to really look back into our lifestyle today, not just ours, our family, our children, how much wild fatty fish do we consume? Are we eating wild fatty fish? Or are we actually consuming fish that we buy in the supermarket? That most of the times it's farm fish. And farm fish will contain almost no omega-3. So what science is telling us for a long, long time, and there's many studies like I show you, that we need to have these two fatty acids. And omega-3 is your anti-inflammation marker. We need to have both. But we need to have both in the same quantity on a 1-to-1 ratio. Science actually says that we can actually have 3 times more omega-6 versus omega-3, and we are still in the safety zone. But what happened since 1960 when you start actually seeing the appearance of supermarkets, big surfaces with loads of ultra-processed food, all those chains of restaurants, then we start seeing an increase on those same ratios. The quality of the food started to be more mass production. And the quality just dropped, the access to wild fatty fish just dropped, and then we start having access to a lot of farm fish. And that's what the majority of the world population consumes. So when we talk about the ratios, and we know that we should be on a 1-to-1, 3-to-1, and now we know that in Europe, we are on a 15-to-1 on average. And because this is an international call and we have people in the United States, people in Canada, look, around the world, the average is 25-to-1. What does that mean? Because at the moment, those are just numbers. So the higher the ratio, the more it's going to compromise the functionality of your body, from your joints to your muscles, to the functionality of your organs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, everything. And then the quality of your skin, the quality of your hair, but also your brain, because your brain is around 60-65% of fat, and it requires a lot of omega-3. We just don't have it. So we got to ask, what happens if we don't have enough omega-3 in our diet? Well, the impact, it's at the cellular level. And I can tell you that when I heard this for the first time, I was so excited in one way, because then I could understand why people actually developed so many illnesses, because everything is made of cells. We are a combination of 37 trillion cells, all compacted together. That's what we are. And every single cell has a membrane. And that membrane actually decides what goes in inside the cell, what can we absorb in terms of nutrients, and what can be expelled in terms of toxicity. So the higher the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3, the less we can absorb and the less we can expel. So can you imagine what it's like to live a life that we just keep accumulating toxicity over and over and over again? That will lead to chronic inflammation, which is silent, you don't feel it, and then you end up start feeling the symptoms. And that what you do? Well, you go to the doctor, and the doctor will end up telling you that some really bad news. Well, we have some really serious problems to sort out. It could be something minor, could be arthritis, could be gut issues, but it could also be a tumor, could be a heart problem, it could be all sorts of things, because all of those chronic diseases, they start from chronic inflammation. So what we really need to do is to bring the ratio back to normal. We gotta bring back a normal, permeable, soft membrane. And for that to happen, we gotta bring that ratio back to normal. So the question that we always ask everyone is, where do you think you are? After this little explanation, based on your diet, based on your lifestyle, based on how much wild fatty fish you consume, do you have a clean diet? Do you have a degenerative diet? Where do you think you are? And this is a genuine question that we can all do and actually more or less calculate if we are above the seawater line. The reality is majority of people are below. So this is when we come along as company called Zinzino, a Scandinavian company that came and decided to really disrupt this information and all combine all this information about chronic inflammation and provide more information to people based on let's analyze our blood and let's give back to people the information that we need to know that if we are in balance or actually we have a high ratio. So we test. That's what we do. We get to pass on the information through a blood test that will tell you what is the permeability of your cell membrane, what is the ratio that you have, that magical number, and also if your diet it's compromising your levels of inflammation by the excess consumption of omega-6. We also test the gut. So it's a new test that we just launched. We are finally able to test the guts and all the information that the gut can provide through a blood test. Okay. And then we also have another test for vitamin D and a test for sugar levels. So for us, it's so important that we can pass on the information to people through information that people can actually see themselves rather than, does it work? Do I need it? I don't know. And by testing, we can find out. So we work in partnership with Vitas, and Vitas is an independent lab. It's one of the most recognized labs in the world. And by looking at the caliber of partners that they have, such as ourselves, the Swedish company, they also work with the National Health Service of the United Kingdom. They also work with the Olympic Committee. They work with Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard University and many hospitals around the world. They simply send blood samples, and like us, we have tested over 1.5 million people. And what we can see in this illustration is that it doesn't really matter what we test. It doesn't really matter. It's not a regional problem. It's a global problem affecting every single corner of the world. 97% are failing the test. But more interesting is that 20% of those people that got tested, they were already omega-3 consumers through a supplement, and they still managed to fail the test. So now it's a question, why? Because the reality is we have a global problem. We don't have access to wild fatty fish. Omega-3 supplements are not working. How are we going to fix this problem? And if omega-3 supplements really worked, I think majority of doctors would prescribe omega-3 to everyone, so we could find so we could rectify the problem of not having wild fatty fish. So what I want to do now, I just want to share a little video with you that will explain to you why the world of supplementation doesn't work and what is the solution for it.
The question I often get asked is why would someone like me with a background in academia who've become quite well established and recognized internationally as a researcher and research coordinator will join forces with an organization like Zinzino? Back in 2020, I was working as a research coordinator for two global health strategies. And the problem that we were really starting to face and tackle was the fact that the Office of Global Burden had published data which had been shared by the World Health Organization that estimated a 6.3 billion people on planet Earth were living with an omega-3 deficiency. And that's quite profound. As a part of the research strategy team I was in, we started to consider, well, what else can we do? And we looked at supplementation, but the reality is that the evidence, the research evidence around supplementation, well, it was quite damning. We knew there was a systematic review published in 2018 that quantified the area. The outcome of that, the statement, the findings were that most of these supplements, well, they failed to function. So there we were, scratching our heads. How do we fix a global health problem? How do we put back in something that is essential, that needs to be there in order to optimize health? And then, curiously, as these things come about, a good friend of mine called me out of the blue and said, have you ever heard of this Scandinavian company called Zinzino? Now, he was making a personal inquiry. He'd had some health issues over the years, and his doctor over in the United States had recommended this specific company with their specific product and had told him this is the one that works. And I was skeptical. Myself and our team had been looking at this for some time, and to me it was, yeah, here's another one. But he asked me to take a look, and so I did. I thought, I'll take a look. It takes no time. Let's see what's going on in this space. Why would it be any different? And the moment I did, I saw two profound aspects that were really game-changing. And I recognized it immediately. First of all, the test. The first thing that I saw was that this was a test-based company. But this was actually a company that had aligned with one of the most reputable, distinguished, independent laboratories in the world. And they were the people who were doing the dry blood spot samples for them. This piqued my interest. In science, let's get real. If we can't measure it to a certain extent, we don't even accept that it's a reality. And we like to test and test and test again to see how something stacks up against repeated scrutiny. And here we had one of the most recognized laboratories in the world doing this type of blood analysis. And then I looked at the product and had that moment of, not eureka, but certainly I recognized immediately the simplicity of the genius. You see, where omega-3s occur in nature, they are naturally bound to a polyphenol. Polyphenols are another essential aspect, powerful antioxidants of our nutritional health. They function on so many levels within the human biology, within the human organism. And where we find omega-3 in nature, they are bound to these polyphenols, but the essential refining process of fish oil, in order to eliminate those environmental toxins, also separates it from the polyphenol. And so the minute I loaded up the information, looked at the page, and I saw the simplicity of the genius of what Zinzino had done, they'd realigned nature. They'd put the omega-3 back with the polyphenol. And there it was. So immediately I realized that this was something decidedly different. They understood what difference needed to be made. And by applying that simple genius of rebinding the omega-3 to the polyphenol, you now had a fully functional supplement that could meaningfully bring about a change, an alteration, an improvement to your omega-3 status.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, sorry about that. Well, Dr. Colin Robinson summarizes it very well. Our balance oil is not a fish oil. It's so much more. It's more like a Mediterranean diet in a bottle. And what sets us apart from everyone else, like he said, it's all about those polyphenols, which keep the omega-3 molecules fresh. So our balance oil is made up of 60% pure high-grade fish oil, from small, fatty, sustainably wild-caught fish, and that's paired with 40% pre-harvest premium extra virgin olive oil. And that is the source of these very important polyphenols that bind to the omega-3 molecule. Now, depending what market, what country you're in, our balance oil is available in several different flavors. There's a tutti frutti flavor for kids, and we also have a vegan oil for anyone who doesn't eat fish or might be allergic to it. You can see on this slide, there's a bar graph off to the side. And that bar graph represents a study that was done in 2010, the SINTEF study, and it shows how bioavailable the balance oil is compared to other products on the market. So when you consume an omega-3 product, without those polyphenols, it starts to degrade and go rancid much more quickly. And this study proved that balance oil lasts up to 35 hours from the time you consume it, which keeps it available to get into all those cell membranes, like Ricky explained, so that it's actually working the way it's intended. There we go. So you might be asking, well, who is this good for? And the answer is for everyone. There are health benefits at every stage of life. I always start on this slide right in the center, the woman carrying the baby in her belly. Right at conception, when that baby is developing, the omega-3s, the DHA and omega-3 is so important for brain development, as well as for the development of the eyes. And then young children, babies and young children require omega-3 as their brain continues to develop. You know, our brain's not fully developed until we're about 25 years old. It helps with growth and immunity. And in our young adult life, omega-3 support reproduction, also help support our skin, hair, and nails. And as we get into our later years, we start to think a little bit more about our heart health. And we know that omega-3 supports our heart, continues to support our brain and immunity. And into our elder years, as we get older, where we require more support with our joints and our bones, our mobility, and continued support with our brain function. It really does help through every stage of life. Now, in Europe, the European Food Safety Authority allows us to make these 18 health claims about how omega-3s support our health. I'm in Canada. I'm regulated by the Public Health Agency of Canada. And we're allowed to make the claims that are in green: supports normal brain function, heart function, immune function. As you can see, there's lots more here on this list. But what really keeps me motivated to keep sharing this with people is the stories I hear about how getting people into balance, how it helps support them, reducing symptoms they have, how they feel better, improvements in their health. And for me personally, when I was introduced to Zinzino, I was 46 years old. I had very stiff, achy joints in my hands and very stiff hips. When I woke up in the morning and I went to get out of bed, I was sort of slow moving because my hips were so stiff. And I thought, geez, like, is this like getting older? Is this what I'm supposed to feel like? And I just sort of accepted it. Well, 3 weeks into taking balance oil, I remember the day waking up and my hands felt completely normal. I'd almost forgotten what they'd felt like when they were stiff. A few weeks later, I was getting out of bed and just moving like I should. No more stiffness whatsoever. So from there, I just wanted to share this with everyone. Now, our products are made with the highest quality of care. We have many certifications that accompany our products. We are GMP certified. We have the Friend of the Sea, which shows that all the fish are sustainably and ethically sourced. Informed sport, that's very important for high-level athletes who are looking to make sure that any product they put in their body is clean and free of any ingredient that might interfere with the testing that they have to do, at that level, anti-doping testing. We do have the vegan balance oil, as I mentioned. Many of our products are vegan, and many more that you can see here. One thing that really impressed me about Cinzino is that we have the largest omega-3 database in the world. We have collected the most information about omega-3. And that's reflected here in this map of the world. Statistically, our numbers are broken down per country. And what I want to highlight here is you can see that each country, their first test result varies. For example, in the United States, the average was 22.6 to 1. In Portugal, first test average 18.6 to 1. What there is to note here, though, is that every country on their first test, they're not in balance. And there's different factors that affect that. Some of those are cultural factors. Definitely the diet, what we're eating. We know that that standard American diet is full of processed food. However, when you look at the second test results for each country, they're not so varied. 3.4 to 1, 3.1 to 1, 3.1, or 3 to 1 in Germany. So after that second test, after taking balance oil, what's common is everyone is getting back into balance, regardless of culture, regardless of diet. This is another favorite graph. The orange column is people who have taken no omega-3 whatsoever. And I like here that it's highlighted by age category. The yellow graph is people who have used an omega-3, and the green graph is those who have used a balance oil product. And you can see in this orange graph, no omega-3 taken. What's kind of alarming is that age group from 0 to 9. 18.9 to 1. So that's telling us that our children are being born out of balance. And that's because of the diet of their parents, maybe even their grandparents. So sadly, our children are starting their life out of balance. When you look to the middle graph, this sort of echoes something that Ricardo had already mentioned, that people who are taking an omega-3 supplement were still failing their first balance test because that supplement didn't have the necessary polyphenol. And then after using a balance oil product, you can see in the green column on their second test, in every age category, they're back in balance. So 95% of people taking a balance supplement will be back in balance or very close to after 120 days. We wait 120 days to do that second test because that is the turnover in our body of our red blood cells. A red blood cell has a lifespan of approximately 120 days. So we want to make sure that we turn over all those blood cells, because when we take that dry blood spot test, we're looking at the cell membrane of red blood cells. These are actually Ricardo's test results. My personal test result, first test was 20 to 1. I wasn't too surprised that I was out of balance, having learned about food and having learned where the good sources of omega-3 are, and knowing I wasn't consuming much wild-caught fish or algae. My second test came back at 4 to 1, which I was very impressed with. And as I've already told you, I was feeling the benefits. So reaching a balance between omega-6 and omega-3 is the first step to staying fit and being healthy. I'd like to take a few minutes just to introduce you to some of our other products at Cinzino. And I would like to start with the gut health test. We're very excited about this test. It was just launched this past Friday at our annual event in Oslo, Norway. And this gut health test is so amazing because, as you may have heard said, the gut is like the body's second brain. I think scientists now they're starting to say more like the gut is the epicenter of the body. It's sort of the control center of the body. And now for the first time, we have this groundbreaking test that gives us a glimpse of our gut health. Which direction are we heading in? Is our gut healthy? We know that our gut is made up of trillions and trillions of bacteria, more bacteria than we have cells that make up our body, actually, quite amazing. And to keep it really simple, we have good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. And depending on what we eat, we're either feeding the good bacteria or we're feeding the bad bacteria. And this test measures certain metabolites in the blood, which give us a picture of our overall gut health. And when you get these test results, you also receive some actionable insights and interventions of things you can do, lifestyle and diet-wise, to help improve your gut health. And one of those things that you can do to improve your gut health is to feed the good bacteria. And that's where this product Xenobiotic comes in. Xenobiotic is a prebiotic fiber, which is what the good gut bacteria feed off of so that they can multiply. And at Xeno, we've known this for some time. This is not a new product. We've been feeding that good gut bacteria so that we can have a healthy gut. And also help improve bowel function, help improve immunity. As we know, 70% of our immune system stems in our gut. We also have a product called Extend Plus. This is a multi-immune food supplement, which I love. It is comprised of minerals, vitamins, beta-glucans. It's all the nutrients you need in one capsule. I like to think of it as filling the gaps in my diet. Every day, whatever food I'm eating, I can't get every single nutrient that my body needs within one day. So I know and feel confident when I take Extend Plus that I'm filling in those gaps. Like I said, helps you to feel more energized, supports bone and joint function, and again, helps contribute to a robust immune system. Something that I think is just genius about Zinzino is these products weren't developed to be singular products. The Zinzino Health Protocol is these three products together, and they're meant to work together, to support each other, to work synergistically. So first step is to get into balance, that omega-6 to omega-3 balance with a balanced product. The second step is to restore your gut function. And the third step is to support your body overall with the Extend Plus. Now, there comes my favorite product, Viva Plus. This is our Health Protocol Premium, which incorporates this fourth product, Viva Plus, which is a 100% all-natural food supplement. The main ingredient is a derivative of saffron, which is a spice you may have heard of. And saffron works to stimulate the brain to release serotonin, dopamine, and melatonin. Now, if you have low mood, stress, poor sleep, this can really help you as, like I said, it supports the brain to help improve. We call it at Zinzino, we refer to it as a spa for the mind. For me personally, I love this product because as a mom of two, that after school up to dinner time can be kind of stressful in my house. And sometimes there's a feeling of overwhelm. And Viva Plus just helps bring me back to calm, level-headed, and happy mom. One of my favorites. And I am not the only one who thinks so highly of Zinzino products. We have many, many Zinzino brand ambassadors who are top-level athletes, world champions, and they are very proud to promote Zinzino products because they've either helped them to reach peak performance, they help with speeding up recovery time, and we're very proud to have them speak on our behalf. Now, I have another video here I would like to share. Ricardo, my apologies. I don't think I'll be able to play the video or the audio on this. If maybe you could take over.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
Thank you, Alison. And yeah, and just to finish, and then Patricia can pick it up. Yeah, regarding my story. So, like I said, I had that big accident, and then I did my first test. My first test came as 13 to 1, and then I embarked in the journey of the health protocol. And then on my second test, after 5 months, I was on a 3.1 to 1. Not necessarily that I felt the differences straight away, but knowing that at the cellular level I was in balance because I can't see my inside. So, but the test actually gave me a clear understanding that internally all my cells were in balance. So I knew that that would help in my recovery. And the reality is, a few months later, I actually started feeling so much better. And today, with 50 years old, and now 4 years since I started taking the products, I run, I cycle, I play tennis, I play squash, I play paddle, I play beach volley, I teach body pump, I teach body balance. I'm a fitness instructor, so I do pretty much everything, and I have no limitations to my mobility. So, for me, kind of changed my life. Okay, it completely changed my life. Like we have been changing so many people's lives throughout this world, not necessarily with structural problems, but all sorts of problems from gut issues to all sorts of chronic disease that you can imagine. So it's all about bringing those cells back into balance. So for my part, thank you so much. Patricia, all yours.
Yes, so thank you so much, both of you, Alison and Ricardo, for sharing your stories and sharing this knowledge. Like I said, I heard this for the first time 4.5 years ago, and it made a total change for me. My first test results, it seems that it was not a high number, it was just 9 to 1, but it was enough for me. All the issues that I had that I already shared with you. And my second test, it was 3.1 to 1. So it made a total difference. And that what drives me. And, you know, like Alison was saying, is that wonder of people getting a better quality of life. I will never forget, I had someone texting me and saying, Patricia, I don't know if this is it or not, but I can't tie my shoelaces. Little things that we think that, okay, that's normal, we can tie our shoelaces, but for some people, it makes a huge difference. So it means that they are with less pain, they can be more mobile. So we never know. So like the last video, it comes from Canada as well, from Health Canada. It's just to promote that. Isn't it better the prevention than actually just then be dealing with the issues? And what Zinzino is offering to everyone is that possibility, knowing exactly where we stand at this point in our life. It's just a glimpse into our future. Those two, well, the 4 tests that we have, especially the balance test and the gut health test, that now you can see exactly exercise, your sleep, all your lifestyle, if it's actually impacting and how is it impacting in your immune system, your gut health, then all of it. It's mind-blowing. Like Alison is saying, the more I talk about it, the more goosebump moments it is. But let's go back to the basics. How are we truly on a cellular level? What is the choices that we make on a daily basis are impacting our future life? And that's what Zinzino is offering people. So my question to you is, for you or for people that you know, is it worth it? Is health important to you? I believe that it must be. That's why you're here or watching this recording. So knowing this, reflecting back to how you're feeling, what you have access to, is it not worth it to know exactly if your choices, the supplements you're taking, all of it is actually helping you or not? Just take the guesswork out of your life. Just test. That's our motto. Test, don't guess. So I'll leave you with that reflection. And our guests, I'll say, go back to the person that invited you here. Ask questions. They will be more than happy to. We'll connect. We'll explain. Believe me, it is worth it. It is life. It's getting older is not being in pain. You don't need to. All of us are example of that. So thank you so much for being here with us. So we do this every Thursday. And so you're more than welcome to come back again, ask questions, connect with us, and we'll see you very soon. Bye, everyone.